closer. Let's talk about windows at night. You know how they turn into black mirrors when it's dark outside and the lights are on inside? Reflecting your own little world back at you. The lamp, the bookshelf, yourself staring blankly. It feels safe, contained. But what if that reflection isn't just yours anymore? What if something else finds a way to slip into that mirrored surface, just for a second, in the dead quiet of the night? My name is Liam. This happened a few years ago, when I was living alone in a small rental house on the edge of town. Not way out in the sticks, but definitely suburban sprawl thinning out towards more wooded areas. My house backed onto a patch of undeveloped land, mostly just thick brush, some scraggly pines, and a creek somewhere back in the darkness. It offered privacy, which I liked, but also a deep, impenetrable blackness outside my back windows at night. I've always been a bit of a night owl. Often find myself reading or sketching or just lost in thought until the early hours. Sleep doesn't always come easy. This particular night was nothing unusual. It was maybe 1:30 a.m., a Tuesday or Wednesday, midweek mundanity. A crescent moon offered minimal light, and a thick layer of clouds swallowed most of that, leaving the backyard in near total darkness. Inside, I had one dim lamp on in the living room, casting long shadows, creating that cozy, insulated feeling against the night outside. I was sitting on the sofa, ostensibly reading a book, but my mind was wandering. You know that state. Tired, but not sleepy. Thoughts drifting aimlessly. The house was quiet, except for the occasional hum of the refrigerator and the gentle ticking of an old clock on the mantelpiece. Outside, silence. No wind, no crickets this time of year. Just still, cold air. And then I felt it. It wasn't a sound. It wasn't a movement glimpsed out of the corner of my eye. It was just a feeling. A sudden, prickling awareness on the back of my neck. The kind that makes you instinctively want to turn around. The distinct, undeniable sensation of being watched. My immediate reaction was to dismiss it. Paranoia, late-night jitters, the house settling. An overactive imagination fueled by too much coffee earlier. I consciously relaxed my shoulders, took a slow breath, and tried to focus back on my book. But the feeling didn't go away. It lingered, persistent, like an itch under the skin. It felt localized, too. Seemed to be coming from the direction of the large, sliding glass door that took up most of the back wall of the living room, leading out onto a small wooden deck and overlooking that dark, undeveloped patch of land. My eyes kept flicking towards the glass door, involuntarily. Each time, I saw exactly what I expected to see. My own reflection staring back. Me on the sofa, the lamp beside me casting a warm glow, the bookshelves lining the opposite wall, all mirrored perfectly in the dark glass. Beyond the reflection, impenetrable blackness. Safe, contained, just my little illuminated bubble against the void. I got up, needing to break the spell, went to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, stood there for a moment, listening, heard nothing but the fridge hum. The feeling of being watched lessened slightly when I wasn't directly in the living room, but it didn't vanish entirely. Like static cling, it just stuck. Okay, this is stupid, I told myself. You're alone. The doors are locked. It's just the dark playing tricks on you. Get a grip. I walked back into the living room, determined to ignore it. Sat back down on the sofa, picked up my book again, forced myself to read a paragraph, then another. But my focus was shot. My senses felt heightened, straining against the quiet. Every tiny sound, the clock ticking, the house creaking, seemed amplified, potentially significant. And my eyes, they kept drifting back to that damned glass door. Reflection, just my reflection. Lamp, bookshelf, me, blackness beyond. Flicker. Wait, did I just see? No. Must have been my own movement. My head turning slightly, catching the light differently. I stared harder at the reflection, trying to dissect it, looking for the source of the phantom flicker. Nothing. Just the familiar scene. I tried to rationalize. Maybe it was the reflection of a car's headlights turning down a distant street, momentarily catching the glass? Possible, though the road was quite far away and screened by trees. Maybe an animal moved out there in the darkness, its eyes reflecting the dim light from my lamp. Also possible, raccoons, possums, maybe even a deer occasionally wandered close to the houses. But the feeling didn't match those explanations. It didn't feel distant or fleeting. It felt close, intent, focused directly on me. I shifted uncomfortably on the sofa, pulling my legs up, feeling suddenly exposed, despite being inside my own locked house. The silence pressed in again. Tick, 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 went the clock. My gaze drifted back to the window. It was almost compulsive now. Reflection, lamp, bookshelf, me, blackness, face. It was there for less than a heartbeat, a split second superimposed over my reflection, seeming to look through it right at me. Not distinct, not detailed, more like an impression burned onto the glass. Pale, oval-shaped, dark patches where eyes should be. No discernible features, no expression, just a presence, a face shape, hovering in the darkness just beyond the glass, peering in. My breath hitched, my blood ran cold, my entire body froze, locked in that moment of impossible perception. Then, just as quickly as it appeared, it was gone, vanished, leaving only my reflection staring back, wide-eyed, terrified, alone in the dimly lit room. Did I really see it? Did I? Or was it just a pattern in the condensation? A trick of light and shadow combined with my frayed nerves? My mind scrambled, desperately trying to find a logical anchor in the sea of sudden terror. I leaped off the sofa, heart hammering against my ribs, so hard it felt like it might break free. My legs felt shaky, unreal. I flipped on the main overhead light, flooding the room with harsh brightness, banishing the cozy shadows, making the reflections in the glass door sharper, clearer. My reflection stared back, pale and scared, but definitely alone now. I rushed to the door, fumbling with the lock on the handle, then the security bar I always put in the track at night. Sliding the heavy glass door open a few inches, I peered out into the blackness, straining my eyes. Cold night air rushed in, carrying the damp scent of earth and decaying leaves. Nothing. Absolute darkness. Absolute silence. No pale face hovering. No dark silhouette. No sound of footsteps retreating through the brush. Just the impenetrable void of the undeveloped land behind my house. I slammed the door shut, locking it again, ramming the security bar back into place with trembling hands. My breathing was ragged, shallow. I backed away from the door, putting the sofa between me and the glass, my eyes never leaving that black, reflective surface. My mind raced. It had to be a reflection, right? Something inside the house? I scanned the room frantically. A lampshade casting a weird shadow, a picture on the wall. Nothing remotely resembled a pale, featureless face. Could it have been someone outside? A prankster? A peeping Tom? The thought was terrifying, in its own mundane way, but it didn't quite fit the feeling of what I thought I saw. The face hadn't looked solid, exactly. More translucent, like a projection onto the glass, or something within the darkness itself, finding form for just an instant, and the timing, appearing just as I looked, vanishing instantly when I focused. That felt wrong too. Too convenient, too elusive. I spent the rest of the night wide awake, huddled on the sofa, the main light blazing. Every creak of the house, every distant siren, every rustle of leaves outside sent fresh waves of adrenaline through me. I couldn't shake the image, however fleeting, however uncertain. The pale oval, the dark eye sockets, the feeling of being seen by something that shouldn't be there. Sleep, when it finally came in the gray hours of dawn, was shallow and dreamless, offering no respite. The next day, exhaustion warred with a lingering dread. In the bright light of day, the backyard looked normal, just overgrown brush and trees. The glass door was just a glass door. I even went outside onto the deck, checking for footprints near the door. Any sign that someone had actually been standing there. Nothing. The ground was damp, would have shown prints, but there was nothing disturbed. I cleaned the glass door meticulously, inside and out, looking for any smudge, any handprint, anything out of the ordinary. Found nothing but my own fingerprints from opening and closing it. But the fear didn't dissipate with the daylight. That night, as darkness fell, the anxiety returned, coiling in my stomach. Closing the curtains felt like admitting defeat, like acknowledging that something was out there. But leaving them open felt like an invitation. I compromised, closing the vertical blinds, leaving tiny gaps I could peek through, feeling like a paranoid fool. For weeks afterwards, my nights were plagued by unease. I avoided sitting in the living room after dark if I could help it. When I did, I kept the main lights on, sacrificing the cozy atmosphere for the illusion of safety that brightness offered. I found myself constantly glancing towards the glass door, my heart skipping a beat every time, half expecting, half dreading to see that pale shape materialize again in the reflection. Sometimes I thought I heard things, faint sounds from the backyard, just at the edge of hearing. A soft thump against the deck, a rustle in the bushes too close to the house, a twig snapping in the dead quiet. Each time I'd freeze, listen intently, maybe creep towards the door to peer through the blinds. And each time, there was nothing definitive, just ambiguity. Enough to feed the fear, not enough to confirm it. Was it just animals, the wind, or was it still out there, watching, waiting, more patient this time? I tried desperately to rationalize the initial sighting. Autokinesis, the illusion of movement in static light, hypnagogic hallucination, seeing things while falling asleep or waking up, though I was definitely awake. Simple pareidolia, the brain finding familiar patterns, like faces in random visual noise. All possible. All plausible explanations for a tired, stressed mind in a dimly lit room staring at a reflective surface. Except none of them accounted for the feeling. That intense, prickling certainty of being observed by an intelligence. That feeling hadn't been vague. It had been sharp, focused, directed right at me. And the visual, however fleeting, had felt external. Not a trick of my own eyes, but something imposed onto the reflection from the darkness beyond. I never saw the face again. The intense fear gradually subsided into a low-level, persistent anxiety. A permanent alteration in my sense of security within my own home. The glass door ceased to be just a feature of the house. It became a boundary, a membrane between the known and the unknown. A screen onto which the darkness could, perhaps, project things I wasn't meant to see. I moved out of that house about a year later for unrelated reasons. But I specifically looked for places without large ground floor windows or glass doors backing onto darkness. Paranoid? Maybe, but that single split-second glimpse in the dead of night was enough. Enough to make me distrust reflections. Enough to make me uncomfortable with large panes of glass after dark. Enough to make me acutely aware of the vast, unblinking darkness that lies just beyond the comforting glow of our indoor lights. Because sometimes, when you stare into the black mirror of a window at night, you might see more than just your own reflection. And you might spend the rest of your nights wondering if what you saw is still out there, watching, waiting for you to look again. The watcher beyond the window might only reveal itself for an instant. But that instant is enough to change the night forever.